It's always fun for me to find another podcast lover, and when I found Erin on Instagram, I knew that I had to have her on my show to talk about some of her favorites. She has a special place in my heart because she has ALS and she is in her 20s, just like my brother Ryan, who was also diagnosed with ALS in his 20s. All of my episodes this month have centered around the ALS community, and it has been so much fun to introduce you to the inspiring and lovely people that are in this community, and today you get to meet Erin. Hi, I'm Andy Smiley, the Friendly Podcast Guide. I'm a mom who uses podcasts to fight the boredom and loneliness of motherhood and to entertain my kids when I need a break. And I want you to be able to use podcasts in these ways too. But it can be overwhelming to try and find a podcast you or your kids will enjoy in the thousands of shows that are out there. That's where I come in. Each week, I talk about different podcasts with topics ranging from parenting to pop culture and everything in between. My episodes are short and they answer your questions about the show, so you'll know if it's a good fit for you or your kids or not. Now, let's talk podcasts. So some of Erin's favorite shows are true crime podcasts, which is nice because true crime podcasts are not my favorite genre. So I don't talk about them very much on my show. I'm excited to have someone on the show to introduce you to some good true crime podcasts. But before I introduce you to Erin and her great taste in podcasts, I want to tell you about a way you can help the ALS community. One of my goals in life is to be able to donate $1,000 a month to ALS research to help finally find better treatments and a cure for ALS. While I'm not able to do that quite yet, I know that the money that I donate to I Am ALS is doing so much good for the ALS community. If you want to help the ALS community, a simple but amazing way for you to do that is to donate to I Am ALS. I Am ALS is a patient-led community that provides critical support and resources to those living with ALS, caregivers, and loved ones. They raise awareness and advocate for the ALS community's needs. They've also been able to increase federal funding for ALS research and helped revolutionize the development of treatments and cures for ALS. I Am ALS has been able to do all of this because of the donations they receive each year. So, if you're looking for a way to make a difference in the ALS community, donating to I Am ALS is a great way to do it. We'll put a link to the donation page in the show notes. Now you get to hear my lovely conversation with Erin about her love of plants and podcasts. Just as a heads up, one part of having ALS is that you slowly lose the ability to speak. Because of this, Erin's speech is a little bit slurred and quiet. But Erin's podcast recommendations are completely worth the slightly extra bit of effort to understand her. Also, technology was out to get Erin and I that day. So the audio quality isn't as great as I would hope for, but it's still worth a listen. Erin, thank you so much for being on the show today. I am so excited to hear about your podcast suggestions, your favorite shows right now or always, whatever you prefer. But before we talk about that, I want to hear what got you into podcasts? Let's back up. First of all, will you introduce yourself to my listeners? Yeah. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I'm Erin. I currently live in Southern California. I love reading. I'm an avid reader. I read probably 2 to 3 books a week.
That's awesome.
Right? And then I love cats. I love the outdoors. Houseplants are my favorite. I have probably 30. And I studied botany in college, so I'm kind of a botanist. I've only had one job to attest to that, but other than that. And then online, I'm currently known for being a really young person with ALS.
Yeah. Okay, I have to just say, I love that you have so many plants because I do too. And I feel like some people are like, how many plants do you have? And I'm like, I have 15. So now I can say, I know someone who has 30. So you can't even judge me.
So when I lived in Utah, I actually worked for a plant shop. And I got so many plants for free that at one point I got up to like 100.
That's a lot of plants.
Yeah, it was like, in hindsight, it was too many, but walking into my apartment, it felt like you were walking into a forest, and it was amazing.
Okay, now we know a little bit more about you and how awesome you are. Let's talk about how you first got into podcasts. Like, what was your introduction? Who got you in, or what, or all of that fun stuff?
So I got into podcasts, I want to say 4 years ago now, because at the time I was a delivery driver, and I'm driving around for 8 hours in a day, and sometimes music wouldn't cut it. So the person I was dating at the time, they were like, have you tried podcasts? I was like, no, but I will. And I did, and then I got addicted.
Seriously, I've been there. I am there now. So, yeah. But there's just so many good ones. You can never run out. So, it's not the worst addiction in the world, right? At least that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, there's definitely worse addictions. So,
yeah, for sure. Okay. So now that we have some background on you and how you got introduced to podcasts, can you tell me what is your first suggestion for us today? Podcast suggestion recommendation for us today.
Okay. So the first podcast that I got into was Crime Junkie, and they have been around, for a really long time. They have 364 some episodes. They have a lot of episodes. But I started listening to them because of my manager. I went on a couple deliveries with him, and he was playing that, and I was like, what is this? It's amazing. It's there's so much drama, and there's murder, and then, how do you not love that? So I listened to them for, a long time. But they have a couple of different types of episodes. They have ones that are just for, missing persons cases, and then they have, serial killers, and then they have just regular murder.
I love that they make a distinction. That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's amazing. Oh my god, yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. And truly, my community knows this about me, but I don't really listen to very many true crime podcasts. So I'm really glad you're here to educate us all, because I know that people like true crime. It's just not my jam. So yeah, really glad that you're here today to talk about it. So what is your next podcast recommendation for us?
So the next one is literally called Serial Killing, a Podcast. So, I started listening to her really early on into her career, so I came along probably around episode 50 or 60, and, the name, obviously with her name, she focuses on, serial killers, not so much anymore. She started branching out, but I don't know. She has a really good voice, and she mainly states facts, but she occasionally puts her own opinions into it. I don't know. I really like her, but the one thing is that she talks a little slow. So you have to listen to her on 1.5 speed.
Yes, I totally get that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that insight, because sometimes you just need to know that, like, it's great, but to get through it in a decent amount of time, just speed it up a smidge. So that's awesome. Okay. I love that. And that tip is perfect, because we just need to know. You're a podcast listener. You know what we need to know. So thank you. Okay. And then what is your third podcast recommendation for us?
Okay. So the third one, surprisingly enough, isn't true crime. It's called the Tiny Meat Gang podcast, and they have been around also for a while. It's just two friends, and they're really good bantering off each other, and, you know, their bits are they're just so funny. I've listened to them on, like, long road trips, and there have been some points where I had to pull over because I was, like, cry laughing.
I love that.
Oh my god. Like, they're just so funny, and they work off of each other so well. I don't know. But they've also been podcasting for a while.
Okay. That's lovely. I haven't heard of that one, so I'm excited to look that one up.
Really? Yeah. It's just a little raunchy, but I don't know. I think it makes it more fun.
Well, and truly, I love, like, a conversational podcast where you get to hear two people just, like, chatting, because especially as a stay-at-home mom, like, sometimes I don't get to hear another adult all day. So, like, it's nice to just, like, put in a headphone and just listen to two other people talk and just, like, pretend I'm part of the conversation. So I love a conversational podcast. That's delightful. Yeah. I love that. Okay. Thank you so much for those recommendations. And before I let you go, where can people find you to just, like, partake of your goodness and, like, get to know you better?
So on Instagram, you can find me at Unsteady and Ready. Because, you know, when you have ALS, you fall over a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to take on the world, so, yeah.
I love that. That's perfect.
Name, right?
Yeah.
And I do have a TikTok, but I don't post on it. But, you know, it's the same name on TikTok also.
Perfect. Okay. Then I'll make sure to put that, as well as all of your recommendations, in the show notes so that people can go wherever they want to go to find you and all of your good recommendations. And thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been delightful.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for welcoming me on your podcast.
Yeah, it's so fun. Erin has some great recommendations, doesn't she? I'm so grateful that I got to talk podcast with her. All of the shows we talked about today are in the show notes, so you can easily find the podcasts that piqued your interest. All this month, I'm introducing you to people in the ALS community, so make sure to go back and listen to the episodes that came out earlier this month, as well as next week's episode. Also, if you're looking for a way to help the ALS community, you can click the link in the show notes to donate to I Am ALS. Talk to you soon!